Hey everyone, I'm Brenda Harvey, author of The Conspiracy, and today we are going to be talking about common writing traps. These are all things that I have done, and you probably have done them too. So here's how, to recognize them, and then you can avoid them. But before we get into the video, please like and subscribe to this channel. If we get 25 subscribers on this channel, then I will record an audiobook version of my book, The Conspiracy. That is my first of 2 books, and then the 3rd book in that series is going to be coming out this October. So, while we are talking about The Conspiracy, my 2 books are called The Conspiracy and The Lead. If you search my name in Amazon, they should be the first things to come up. They're also linked in the description below. Make sure to buy those because I do reference them a lot. And then you're going to be mad at me for spoiling the books because you haven't read them yet. And I don't want you to be mad at me, so just buy my books. It's a lot easier for both of us, I promise. Make sure you are watching my website for any changes. That is where I post the most up-to-date information. So that is where I will be announcing the title of the 3rd book, the cover for the 1st book, and hopefully the release date for the 3rd book. That is also where I will be posting any short stories that I write. And if you have not seen my Taylor Swift Writing Challenge video, I'll link it up there. Definitely check that out. And yeah, so let's get into the video. So, the first writing trap is not being original or going off of common plots or popular plots. So sometimes this works, oftentimes it doesn't, because nobody likes a copycat. And I know other channels have talked about this in different creative ways, you have to be unique on YouTube, you have to be unique in your art. But for writing, it's super important because if you have the exact same plot, the exact same characters, the exact same setting as someone else, why should they buy your book? It's boring, they've seen it before, nobody wants to read that, and you have to be able to stand out. So writing is one of those jobs where you have to stand out. You have to be original. There are some jobs where, yeah, you just kind of have to stick in your group. You can't go out of that. But for writing, you have to be out of the box. Otherwise, it's boring for readers. No one's going to buy your book. You just need to be original for this to work out for you. So definitely, if you need to take another plot, you better have a different setting. You better have different characters. You better have different character interactions. It better be a different genre even. You really need to if you are copying from another author, you need to change everything else. If you're taking the same character and just changing the name, you better make sure everything around them, the plot, the other characters, the setting, the genre, it all has to be completely different. You should be able to compare the 2 books, but it shouldn't be this is a direct copy of this book. Because really, if you are trying to fit in with writing, then you're going to fail. For writing, you have to stand out. And have I said that enough? Yeah. Moving on. Not using authentic language. This is super important when you're writing in 1st person, but also 3rd person and 2nd person, I'd assume too. If you are being stiff with your writing and it's very professional, exactly what you learned in school, it's not going to work out. With fiction, if you are writing nonfiction, if you're writing a scholarly article, yes, be strict, be line by line, be organized, but you need to use authentic language. You need this to be in a story format. You need to use conjunctions in your writing. I remember in 6th grade, Wait, no, it was 7th. In 7th grade, I was told you cannot use don't. You cannot use hadn't. You cannot do it. You have to do it is, have not. And I took that to heart. And then when I was editing all 3 of my books, I needed to go back and change that because it was too strict. It wasn't authentic. You need to write like you're talking to someone, because certain books you do need that, like textbooks. It does need to be strict. Like this is my geometry textbook. So the language in this is going to be telling you how to use the hypotenuse leg theorem. It's going to be fun to learn. That's going to be stricter. That is not going to be this one. These 2 books are very different. If you are a fiction writer, you need to write like this. So don't be stuck in a formal writing. Like, obviously, if it's a school project and you need to use that more formal writing, do that. And to your teachers, don't listen to me, because that's like obviously more important that you do well in school than listen to me. But if you're just writing for yourself, don't be stuck in that language. Next trap would be not sticking to the plot. So I've talked about Plot Mountain before. You need to stick to your plot. So if there is something completely random in your story, it's not going to tie into anything later, get rid of it. You don't need it. Your books do not need to be super long. Like, this is how thick The Conspiracy is. It is 203 pages. The lead is even thinner. It has 130 pages. And C.S. Lewis, Out of the Silent Planet. The Whipping Boy. You do not need to have books that are this thick. If it's thin, that is totally fine. You do not need to add random stuff to make your story longer if it is going to tie into something later. You need that. Because if you are giving readers something and it's like, oh my gosh, this is what happened, and then they have no context for it from before, they're going to be confused and then they're going to be mad at you. You don't want people to be mad at you, and that's a general rule. You don't want people to be mad at you. Next one is thinking you can do everything by yourself and being alone in your writing. So you can write by yourself. You do not need to collab with other people, but you do need editors. You need people to look it over and say, hey, this isn't the best thing in the world. You should change this. You should add more of a description here. And I guarantee you the books that suck don't have enough people working on them. The books where it's like the plot itself is iffy, that's just a writer typically. But if you have something where the writing itself is bad, you probably didn't have enough editors. You probably didn't have enough honest editors. You didn't have enough people looking this over. And sometimes those books take off. But really bad, you do not want a bad book on your resume. You need something good. You need someone to say, hey, this book is good. Yes. Just keep all that in there. You do not want to have only one person who's your best friend looking this over and saying, yeah, everything's great. If your best friend can say, hey, this is not that great, you need to change this. I'm confused about this. Use them, but use other people. Because typically, it depends on who your best friend is, because my best friend is amazing, and she does tell me when stuff confuses her, and she tells me when the language is not authentic, and she tells me when I need to change something. So she is one of my editors. But if your best friend is just going to be like, yeah, it's great. First of all, make sure your best friend is being honest with you. Because if they are just kind of going with the flow, you really that close? You don't need to hear me saying that. Okay, I'm not a relationship expert. Go find someone else. But if your best friend can be one of those first people who said, hey, this is not the best, great. Find other people too. And of course, like, make sure you have people proofreading, but there are a lot of people you actually need on your team. And I'm definitely going to talk about that in another video, just like how many people you need on your team, because you cannot be a one-person show. Like, for me, with YouTube, I'm a one-woman show for YouTube. I do my thumbnails, I edit my videos, I shoot my videos. This is all just me. But with writing, I have 4 different editors, not including myself. And they all look it over. They say, hey, this part is not the best. You should change this. This is confusing. What do you mean here? And if what my goal is, if they have a question about something, I shouldn't answer it. I should change something in the writing. That is what your mindset needs to be. Because if it's more like a texting conversation and it's like, hey, I'm reading this book, I'm confused, I know you are too, I'm confused by this part, then the writer and the editors failed. So you need to be able to go in and say, hey, this part isn't great, and I have been on this way too long, haven't I? So next, we talked about this earlier, but trying to stay with a bestseller plot. So like if you're trying to copy a Harry Potter plot, it's not going to be successful. You're just going to look like a copycat, and you really need to be original. You can adapt, like I said earlier, but you need to make sure it's different enough where it's like, hey, these are not the same thing. Don't stick with common trends. So when it comes to trends, really, you need to calm down, because trends change. Yeah, trends change. And so what's great in 2021 might be boring in 2032. That was a really random number. And like you see in like historical documents, like that's not how we talk anymore. That's not how we write. Like in the Odyssey, we do not talk in poem form. This is a giant poem, let's be honest here. And it was kind of passed down orally. You do not need an Odyssey history lesson. Google this yourself if you don't know what I'm talking about. But we don't talk like this anymore. So don't write like it's the Odyssey. Don't write in the little short text where it's like you, like the letter U, and then, like, I don't even know. I'm so out of it, guys. I do not know these trends. I am not popular. So another thing that is really important to me with trends is having too much romance or too much violence, because there is an entire cycle with this. It is book becomes really popular, but it has a lot of romance in it. Next author sees that book super popular, that book has a lot of romance, that's how my book's going to read. That's how my book is going to be, because that's what sells. And then us teens, and then probably like adults, I don't know, I don't read adult fiction. We see the shelves and it's like, oh my gosh, all of these books are like super violent or have a lot of romance in them. And then that's all we have. So then those books become popular because that's all we have. And then it's just like an endless cycle of, this is doing well, I'm going to do that. We have nothing else to read. So, in general, just like, if something you see in literature you feel you need to change, like for me, I always see way too much romance in the books I read. So, there is one kiss in the entire conspiracy series. It's not very romantic. It's more like friends. And I did that on purpose, because that's how I want my characters to be. You have full control over your characters. Like, I mean, sometimes I get it, like, you're in the writing, you're, like, in the writing mode and you're just going, and then, oh my gosh, that just happened. Oh my gosh, I didn't know the character was gonna die. Oh, well, now I have to, like, figure out what's gonna happen now. But you still have full control. You need to maintain control. You cannot let society steer you off course of being who you are and what you want your writing to be. That is super important. And if you're going to stand out, you can't blend in with society. So that's kind of my last. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Again, if we hit 25 subscribers, I will record an audiobook version of my book, The Conspiracy. Speaking of The Conspiracy, please buy both The Conspiracy and The Lead. They are linked in the description as well as on my website. My website is where you're going to have the most up-to-date information. And please leave any questions you have for me in the comments, because I would love to do a Q&A for you guys, because being an author isn't what you think it is. So leave me any questions and I will answer them. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye. You can compare, like, your readers. Why am I showing you this book? I've only read half of it. Where's my outline? Ugh. Don't listen to me, listen to your teacher.